Hello, everybody. Today is the 15th November 2025. We are gathered here today for the 208th session in Mindfulness for Beginners in English, conducted by Nissarana Vanaya. I would like to warmly welcome Venerable Homagama Dhamma Kusala Thero to the program, and everyone who's with us via Zoom, and anyone who may be watching via YouTube or listening to our link later on. And our program, as usual, will commence with the in-session practice of mindfulness. This will be followed by the talk on today's topic, and we will finally move on to any reports we have received, and then on to any questions if we have time left. To begin today's session, I now invite Venerable Homagama Dhamma Kusala Thero for the in-session practice of mindfulness.
Thanks, Sonali. Hello, everyone. So today, to start the session, let's do a walking session, walking mindfulness practice. For this, feel free to turn on your video and participate more actively. We select some space where we can walk in a comfortable manner, and you can walk back and forth in the selected space. And while walking, you try to be present with the walking body. Various sights you might see, you might hear sounds, thoughts come and go. But among all these things, we try to be grounded, or we try to feel our walking body. We might feel the steps, we might feel the texture, temperature of the ground. We might feel which parts of our feet is touching the ground. That way you know you are grounded in your body. It's okay that you get thoughts. It's okay that you hear things, see things. But among all these things, we can repetitively be grounded in the walking body. That's what we are going to practice. So all of us, let's join for a walking session. And we can probably take around 15 or so minutes. Till you hear the bell sound, you can walk, and then you can come back to your seats. Okay, everyone. So that was about 10 minutes of mindful walking. Just to give you an idea, we encourage you to do daily mindful walking, and basically you walk in a comfortable manner and simply be grounded in your body. With that, Sonali, you can take over.
Thank you, Bante. We move on to the next item in the agenda, and that is the talk on today's topic. This is a continuation from last week's topic, and the topic goes, eat the bugs, and why are frogs so happy? Because they eat whatever bugs them, says the quote. To start the discussion again, I now invite Venerable Dhamma Kusala Thero again.
Okay, everyone. We'll take some time to discuss the given topic. Now, in your mind, various things bugs you. Various things irritate you. That's how things are. Maybe for one of you, it might be something that irritates. For me, it might be different. So that way, in our minds, we are irritated most of the time. And in this practice of mindfulness, we talk about restlessness and remorse in mind. Basically, a monkey mind. Your mind is restless all over the place, and certain fears, certain kind of frustrations, these things are also there. So that type of a mind most of us have. And it's a dangerous situation. It's a dangerous place to be in. When you have a monkey mind, when you have a restless mind full of remorse, that's not a comfortable place. That's why most of the things irritate you. That's why most things bugs you. Let's say when you are alone, if you don't feel comfortable in your mind, that's a sign maybe you are in a bad neighborhood. Your mind is a bad neighborhood. Due to that, you feel fearful. Due to that, you feel irritated. You try to find outside distractions to comfort you. You try to find outside people to comfort you. Right? So that way, when we are dealing with a monkey mind, when we are dealing with untamed mind, it's not easy. The life is not easy. This restless mind that's full of remorse is always giving you trouble, always irritates you, always bugs you. And it's a difficult place to be in. And most of the people, they don't even know how to recover from this. That's the saddest thing. You can have a difficult mind, you can have a monkey mind, but at least if you know how to recover from that, then there is hope. But for most people, the awareness is not there. They don't know the solution. They are not aware about meditation, about the practice. So as a result, their lives, they become even more difficult over time. They go deep into their minds more and more, and suffering, various difficulties, mental illness, these things arise. Right? So how to recover from this? That's the important thing. Now, in the Buddhist practices, there's a word called body awakening. Body awakening. Kayena cheva paramasaccang sachikaroti. You awaken through the body, something like that, body awakening. Right? So What does this mean? In a way, we can explain it like this. Your body, it is already awakened. Body is always present. The body can't go to the past. The body can't go to the future. The body is always present. The body is already awakened. So if you can embrace that body, if you can bring your attention to that body, then you become one with that body. As a result, probably for a moment, for a second, your mind embraced Buddha nature. Or for a moment, you are awakened. But again, next moment, the mind becomes worldly. Thought processes come. Various future planning, they appear. The mind becomes worldly again. But again, you can catch that. You can bring your attention to the body. For probably like few more breath cycles, you can be with that body. Few more steps, you can be with that body. Again, for few breaths, few steps, you are awakened. Right? So this way, we can experience momentary awakening. Whenever our attention is with the body, we can say simply we are awaked. We are enlightened. Right? So that way, momentarily we can maintain this. But repetitively our minds become worldly, time after time. That's okay. The practitioner is encouraged to embrace that momentary enlightenment. Momentarily you can feel the Buddha nature. Momentarily you can feel this awakened body. Right? So that way, momentarily we can maintain this practice. It's okay that the mind becomes worldly in the next moment. You have the ability to again become awakened. That's the whole idea. So for a beginner, it is really encouraged to bring their attention to the bodily sensations. You can simply tell them, your body is already awakened. Your body is already enlightened. Whenever you stay with that body, you too are enlightened. You too are becoming a Buddha. Right? So that way, we can embrace this momentarily. Again, our mind becomes worldly. Again, it will tell, I have to plan my future. I have to go to work. I have to do this presentation. I have many family matters. That way, the mind becomes worldly. The mind doesn't appreciate the Buddha nature. The mind doesn't appreciate this body awakening. Time after time, it goes into thought processes. It perceives different problems. It creates fear, worry. That way repetitively it goes. But the very potential most of us have. If you ask someone, can't you be mindful for a single breath? Can't you be mindful for a single step? Most of the people, they can do it. For a single step, they can be mindful. For a single breath, they can be mindful. Momentarily, they can stay with the body. Next moment, it becomes worldly. That's their complaint. Most people, they come and complain. They say, I can't maintain this. That's true. That's true. But for a moment, for a breath, for a step, you can be with your body. So in a way, you already have that potential. The problem is that how to maintain this, how to repetitively bring attention to the body. That's a different matter. But most of us, we have the potential. If there are people who can't feel their breaths even for a single breath, if there are people who can't feel their steps even for a single step, probably very little. And most of them, they have severe mental difficulties. Due to that mental difficulty, they can't notice even a single breath. They can't be mindful for a single moment, right? So maybe or they are on medication, maybe they are suffering with severe mental illness. That's a different matter. But most of us, the commoners, we have the ability to be mindful for a moment. Our issue is that next moment again, the mind becomes worldly. Next moment again, the thoughts, various analysis, they appear. But you have to understand, you have the potential. Most of us, we have the potential. That's the important thing. We have the potential to embrace this Buddha nature for a moment. We have the potential to experience breathing for a moment. That's what matters. And how to maintain this, how to repetitively embrace this body, that's the whole path. Right? Now you are able to embrace your breath for a moment. You are able to experience the Buddha nature for a moment. Maintaining it, repetitively bringing your attention to the body, that's the whole training. You do many hours of training and gradually develop that capacity. But all of us, most of us, we have that potential. That's the important thing. Right? So, whenever we are with our body, whenever we keep attention to our body, we are momentarily enlightened. Body awakening. We can feel the body for a moment. That body is already awakened. Right? So that way, we keep practicing. That way, we develop the path. And you have to understand, in our minds, we perceive this world differently. We have a unique way of perceiving this world. So our problems, whatever the things that bugs us, they too are unique to us. Not everything irritates all the people. That's not how it works. One thing irritates you, for me, it is not a problem. Right? So we have different ways of perceiving this world. And that's why we experience this world differently. We have our color glasses, sunglasses. According to the glasses, we see the world. If you are wearing blue color glasses, then you see a blue colored world. Right? So that way, you can see our experience of the world is difficult. What we experience in the mind is difficult. Right? There's a lot of variety, and it's difficult to talk about it. It's difficult to understand it. Right? But when it comes to the present moment, when it comes to the body awakening, when it comes to the enlightenment, all of us, in a way, we experience the same comfort. All of us, in a way, we experience the same peace. Right? So, if you go into your mind, there's a lot of complexity, There's a lot of variety, and we have our own unique problems. But when we talk about the awakening, it's the same comfort, it's the same peace that we are after, right? So all of us, we can experience a similar level of peace. All of us, we can embrace the Nibbana. That is not different. That is not different to each and every person, right? So you have to understand, if you go into your mind, it's a unique place. You have your own problems. You have your own difficulties. So a lot of complexity is there. But when it comes to the present moment, it is simple. When it comes to the peace that's there in the present moment, it is simple. And all of us, we can experience the same peace. We can experience the same simplicity. Right? So that's one of the important things. No matter how unique our minds are, no matter how differently we experience the world, when it comes to the enlightenment, when it comes to the Buddha nature, it's the same. And you deserve to experience this peace. You deserve to embrace this peace that's there in the present moment. Now, when it comes to this practice of Dhamma, in a way, Buddha is explaining how we are perceiving this world, right? Two types are there, vitakka vichara. Initial thought, sustained thought. Initial thought is more like you direct your attention towards something. Sustained thought is more like you are experiencing that particular object, right? So that's how we perceive this world. And although we can say vitakka vichara, initial thought and sustained thought, that's how we can experience this world. Although it is the process is the same, the way we experience it could differ. For example, let's think about your way of thinking. Now, some people, they have what you call internal monologue. They have this inner chatter, right? So they keep talking to them. For example, you want to go to supermarket. You want to buy some stuff, right? So in your mind, you'll be saying, okay, I want to go to supermarket. I need to buy these things. I need eggs. I need these things, right? So that way you are planning in your mind. That's called internal monologue. You talk to yourself. You keep directing yourself with this talking, right? And this inner chatter, it could become really strong, and sometimes it could drive you nuts, right? It non-stop talking, non-stop commentary. There is no peace. You don't experience any peace within, right? So that very talking, that very way of planning, that very way of dealing with the world can become a real problem. Now, when it comes to mental illness like schizophrenia, that type of a mental illness, those people, they hear a lot of voices. They even see visions that are not real. So in their heads, there are voices commanding them, asking them to do certain things. Then there are people that are not real, but they see them. They are always there telling them, giving them opinions, things like that. Right? So that type of a mental illness, it's severe mental illness, and that could make people's lives very difficult, because They don't know the reality, they don't know the concepts. They are in their mind a lot, and as a result, their lives, they become really difficult. Sometimes, due to those commands, they harm other people. Maybe a mother suffering from such a illness might harm the child, the infant, because the voices commanded her. Right? So that way you can see these internal monologues. They can go out of control and they can develop into certain mental illness. Somebody was telling a person who was having schizophrenia, strong medication was prescribed due to the difficulty. And that medication quieted this person's mind. Earlier, a lot of monologue, lot of talking, lot of commentary, the voices, and this medication, it clears everything. Strong medication, and that medication clears the mind. Now, no talk, no inner chatter. But this person couldn't bear that peace, that silence. As a result, then this person got depressed. Right? One extreme, the inner chatter non-stop, voices commanding. So given medication to counter that, and then due to the silent mind, the person got depressed. Right? So you can see in one way, our minds are really crowded, lot of noise. In other ways, when the noise is not there, people get depressed. Even in our lives, we can feel that. That's why you don't like to be alone. When you're alone, you feel bored. You don't like the silence. Right? You want to keep this engaged. You want to keep this busy. But for meditators, it's a blessing. They gradually develop the ability to let go of these voices, let go of these internal monologues, and simply be peaceful for a while. Simply be silent for a while. And a meditator, they gradually develop the ability to embrace that silence. Right? So you can see how that works. In one extreme, non-stop talking, non-stop internal monologues, voices commanding, demanding, those things. In other extreme, when the medication is given, when the mind becomes silent, that person can't bear that silence. Getting depressed due to that silence, right? So this way, one way, internal monologue, inner chatter. Then, although it might be difficult for you to believe, there are some people in this world who doesn't have internal monologue. Now, for me, it's difficult to understand because I have internal monologue within me. But maybe in the audience, maybe some of you might not have internal monologue or the inner chatter within you. Right? So you can see we deal with this world in a different way. And those type of people, maybe they are visually, they plan, they engage this world visually. For example, our earlier example, when they want to go to the supermarket, they don't simply create a list in their mind. Instead, they visualize the things that they want to buy. Maybe visually they plan it. They want tomatoes. A picture of tomatoes might come to their mind. They want eggs. Eggs might come to their mind. So that way, they plan it visually. No internal monologue is there. Right? And even deaf people, they haven't heard words, they haven't heard noises in their life, right? So instead of planning or instead of having internal monologue, they have some kind of a visual inner voice, right? Deaf people, they see the movements of the lips. That's how they understand the words. That's how they experience it. So they don't have the sounds inside them in their minds. They simply visualize the movements of the lips or the sign language, right? That's their visualization, right? So that way they engage with the world. That way they plan in their mind. So you can see we have our unique ways of experiencing, dealing with this world. We can bring more awareness to it and see how we are dealing with these things. It's a good practice to be aware. Be aware and see whether you have internal monologue. Be aware and see whether you are planning dealing with these things visually. Bring awareness and see how you deal with these daily encounters. Right? So that way, we have to understand our minds, they are quite unique. A lot of complexity is there in the minds. Right? So when we try to understand, when we try to experience those things, it's not easy. It's a difficult task. But when we talk about the simplicity of the present moment, when we talk about the peace that's there in the present moment, that's common to us and that's simple. So in the meditation, in report writing, reflection reports, you can see the whole effort, the whole guidance is simply to bring more and more priority towards the present moment. To encourage people to bring their attention to the present moment more and more. If we encourage them to go into their minds, then that's not healthy. Because it could be a dangerous place. And nobody else can understand that place. Right? So that's why when writing a meditation report, when giving answers, you can clearly see the priority is the present moment. Thought processes you can include in the report, but that they are not the priority. And maybe like a couple of months ago, this person came for meditation and that person said, Bhante, I am getting medication for some mental issue. And the doctor, he suggested not to do any deep meditations. Right? So he is asking, Bhante, are we doing deep meditations here? That was his question. So I told him not to worry. We are doing simple meditation. We don't do any deep meditation. Right? We try to be present. That's all we do. Right? If there is any complexity, we try to get rid of that. When you walk, simply embrace the walk. When you sit, simply embrace the breathing. When you do other daily activities, simply embrace that. That's what we encourage. Right? Not going deep into your mind, that could be a dangerous place. Right? We simply try to come to the present moment, which is simple, which is common to all of us. That's the whole idea. So in a way, the doctor, he was right, suggesting not to do any deep meditations. the meditation world, most of the methods are misleading. Those things drive people into madness. They develop more and more complexity in the mind. And as a result, they are driven into madness. So doctors get to see many people who has gone crazy due to meditation. Right? So that's why they say not to do any deep meditations. Better do something simple. Right? So in our practice, we are not encouraging people to do deep meditations. We are simple. We simply embrace the present moment. When you walk, can you be aware that you're walking? That's the utter reality. Right? If you deal with a concept, then that could be dangerous. If you deal with the reality as your meditation object, that's much easier. That's much simple. Right? That's why Buddha encourages us to start with a reality. Or in a way, rupa karmasthana. That means bodily sensation. That's where Buddha encourages to start your practice. And when you deal with reality, although it could be a bit difficult, although there is friction in the reality, it is simple and you can manage it. When you go into the concepts, when you go into the complexity of this mind, it's not easy. It's difficult and nobody else can understand what you are perceiving. Right? So that way, we try to develop this ability. And let's say when you continue your practice, when you bring more awareness into your daily life, you can really see these different ways of perceiving this world. Right? Maybe internal monologue. You bring awareness and see whether there is internal monologue within you. You bring awareness and see whether you are planning this world visually. You bring awareness and see whether you have a different way of perceiving this world. Right? So that way, we develop awareness. And how to deal with these things, that's the important thing. How to deal with internal monologue. How to deal with these thought processes. How to deal with these visual, auditory objects. That's important, right? I have done a research about the philosophical teachings on these things and maybe even some psychological teachings, but no method explains this process clearly as the Buddhist practices. They know that internal monologues, thought processes are bad. But how to overcome it? That question is not answered. Hinduism, they come close to it. They say that inner chatter, internal monologues, these things, they are certain things that you have to, certain friction that you have to feel initially. But in your meditation, when you go into absorption, you can get rid of these things. That's their solution. But you can do that temporarily. When you go into absorption, these things are left out. But again, when you come to the real world, again the internal monologues appear. Thought processes appear. Especially concentration practitioners, people who are doing this absorption meditation. I have met a couple of them and they, although they feel certain periods of peace without internal monologue, when they come into the reality, their minds are really crowded, really noisy. Right? So they struggle in their daily life. And again, they go back and get rid of these inner chatter or thoughts for a short period. Again, they come back to the daily life. Again, the noises appear. Again, the mind becomes really crowded, right? So they are trying to hold on to one extreme, and naturally the other extreme follows. They try to hold on to the silence, and the noises follow. They try to hold on to the emptiness, and the crowded mind follows, right? So that way, simply getting rid of them for a short time, that's what the Hinduism recommends, but that's not a permanent solution. Again, when you come to the real world, again these things appear. But in the Buddhist practices, you can clearly see how to deal with these thoughts, how to deal with these internal monologues, how to deal with these inner chatter, right? So there's this passage that teaches about this, and if I simply put it, it says, knowingly they arise, knowingly they stay, knowingly they cease. These thoughts, they arise knowingly. These thoughts, they stay knowingly. These thoughts, they cease knowingly. That's the whole way of the practice, right? So you simply become the witness. You simply witness how these thoughts arise, how these internal monologues arise, how the inner chatter is there, right? So you witness it, you witness how they are arising, you witness how they stay, you witness how they cease. That whole witnessing part is the permanent solution. If you want to really get over these things, then that's the way. Gradually, you develop the ability to be aware of these thought processes. The content of these thought processes, it doesn't matter. What matters is that whether you are able to be aware of these thought processes. Right? Sometimes these thought processes are really strong. Sometimes they are weak. But gradually, when you keep practicing, gradually you will develop your mindfulness up to that level, and you will be able to knowingly allow them to arise, knowingly allow them to stay, knowingly allow them to cease. And that way of practice, in a way, you become the witness. In a way, you disclaim the ownership to these thought processes. Without knowing mindfulness, you can't really disclaim that ownership. Most people, the worldly people, they identify with these thought processes. They identify with these voices. After killing an infant child, the mother is weeping, saying that voices commanded me. The voices told me to kill my infant. Right? So identifying with those voices, simply surrendering to those voices, that's what the worldly people will do. But the meditator, they gradually develop the ability to uplift their mind. They develop the mindfulness, and as a result, they can disclaim the ownership to them. The voices could be there, the thoughts are there, the internal monologues are there, but still you don't have to claim ownership to them. You allow them to arise knowingly. You allow them to stay knowingly. You allow them to cease knowingly. That's the whole practice when it comes to these things. Right? So that's it. That's it for the day. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Bhante. That is a good topic that we could all benefit from. How to be aware of our inner chatter and how to manage them. Right, so now next on the agenda is the reports we have received to present to Bhante, as well as if we have time to move on to questions. So to start this, I now invite Anupama.
Thank you, Sonali. I hope you can hear me. Hello, everybody. It's nice to be back for another session of Mindfulness for Beginners. We have got 3 reports today and a set of questions. Also, we tend to usually recap on how, if there are any newcomers to the group, or if there are people who've been here before but would like a recap on how to kickstart your mindfulness journey. Usually, Sonali will post in the chat the links to the videos for walking, mindful walking, and for mindful sitting, and how to submit a report, the links for the email and the website, etc. Sonali, shall I proceed with? Yeah, I can see it now on the screen for sharing. So as you can see in front of you, there are 2 links, one for the YouTube videos for mindful walking and mindful sitting. We invite you to watch these and familiarize yourself with how to start your practice. Once you've done that, allocate a small time daily to practice mindful walking and sitting. And when you have completed 2 hours of each practice in total, we invite you to write a report. When you do write a reflection report, you can present it as a question or a statement. You can write it under titles such as mindful walking, mindful sitting. You can describe what you felt while walking and sitting and what you recognized as you were walking and in the sitting posture through mindfulness. You can describe the prominent sensations. For example, we did a walking meditation today. So you could write about the texture of the ground underfoot, the pressure points on your soles, how your body weight shifted from one leg to another, etc. Similarly, for mindful sitting, you can list the prominent sensations felt. Again, the pressure points where you're sat, on your cushion or on the ground, the movement of your nostrils or the sensation of the breath going in and out, and the movement of your abdomen, etc. Once you've written the report, you can either use the Google form or email us the report. And once these are it, Bhante will kindly give his guidance on this, which will be helpful to us all to continue improving or evolving in our practice. I will now start with the reports. We have 3 reports today. Report number 1. Venerable Swamin Wahanse, mindful walking. Thought that I was born in this morning and started to walk with a fresh mind. But no sooner I came across same old proliferation. I scared my mind, saying things about samsara. With much difficulty, drew attention to soles of the feet. Felt roughness. Morning was rather heavy with work. Little time to meditate. So, extended meditation further even after the alarm rang. Most of the time. Thoughts were in the mind mainly with one-sided conversation with a favorite friend. In my mind, I tell that person various things in detail. But when I meet that person, rarely even, I hardly talk to that person. Mindful sitting. After the battle with proliferation in walk, sat down to meditate. Observed posture. Belly movements came to action. Various thoughts came. It has been 2 years with meditation, but still can't meditate properly, I thought, maybe due to karma. Am I addicted to think I thought, I have a great desire to meditate, but sometimes, rather most of the time, I fail, can only observe three motions. Happy though. By the way, eventually I realized that when I was typing this email, not a single thought appeared. Oh my gosh. End of report number 1.
Yes, now you can see the nature of the mind. Although you demand it to start fresh early in the morning, soon the same old proliferations, they appear. Again, you become the same old person, right? So for the moment or momentarily we can experience a fresh mind, but again it becomes this old mind or worldly mind. That's how it is. And many things are there. Imaginary friends are there, one-sided conversations are there, right? So simply being aware of them, it's important. That's the whole idea of today's talk. They can be there, but can you be aware of them? According to your statements, you don't have that potential developed. When you say the word meditation, you can say that it has been 2 years for my meditation, yet I can't meditate properly. That's true if you use the word meditation. But let's say when you use the word mindfulness, then that approach is different. We say don't meditate, simply be mindful. That's the whole advice. So when it comes to mindfulness, you can see that one-sided conversations you have noticed. So that's an achievement. That's a result of mindfulness. Imaginary friends, that's also you are witnessing. Same old proliferations, you are simply witnessing, right? So mindfulness, it can't go wrong. Meditation, it can go wrong, right? So use the word mindfulness instead of meditation. If you replace the word meditation with mindfulness, then you simply be aware. One-sided conversations, you are aware. Same old proliferations, you are aware. Imaginary friends, you are aware. That very awareness is your practice. Right? So, when it comes to the word mindfulness, you can't get it wrong. Meditation, you can get it wrong. Mindfulness, you can't get it wrong. So, that's the whole idea. Right? So, if you replace the word meditation with mindfulness, then you are simply witnessing these things. Due to the mindfulness, you can complain about them. Otherwise, how could you complain? Right? If you haven't noticed these things, then there won't be any complaints. Before introducing the practice, there were no complaints because you weren't aware of these things. Now you are complaining as a result of the very practice. Right? So don't use the word meditation. Use the word mindfulness. And you might not be mindful of the breath continuously. That's a single object, no? Mindfulness of breath, right? That could be only for 3 breath cycles. That's fine. But mindfulness of one-sided conversations, mindfulness of imaginary friends, mindfulness of same old proliferations, mindfulness of all the doubts, complaints in your mind. You are doubting the very practice. You are complaining. You have remorse, right? All those things are there. Simply being aware of these things would be your practice. That doesn't mean we are forgetting the entire body. That doesn't mean we are forgetting the breath. That doesn't mean we are forgetting the steps. That's not what we do. Instead, in between these things, we can return to the breathing, embrace the breathing. But again, the mind goes, one-sided conversations appear. Again, you can simply be aware of that conversation. Right? So for many people, it doesn't feel like meditation. Bhante, is this a meditation? I don't feel like it. That's their complaint. Probably true. But if you want to go further, the whole idea would be simply to be mindful. Right? So all these complaints, they become part of your very mindful practice. Due to that mindfulness only, you can complain about these things. Otherwise, you didn't even know that they were there. Right? So that's the very advice. Use the word mindfulness instead of meditation. Don't meditate, be mindful. And mindfulness, you can't get it wrong.
Thank you, Bhante. I will now proceed to read report number 2. Venerable Swamin Wahanse, on Friday afternoon, after the failure of meditation in the morning, I did a nice walking meditation. By the end, I noticed that some thoughts disappeared. Did a sitting cause I needed to explore more? Thoughts appeared and disappeared. I could only see the end. When there were no thoughts in mind, I could hear some noises and little pains. I felt drowsy, sort of like dozing off. Felt the pulse. No one-sided conversations as before. Very peaceful, calm and silent within. Sometimes songs popped up, but when I focused my attention on that, it also faded away. When the meditation was over after 35 minutes, I went out of the seat. The surrounding things appeared so clear, like a mirror. This is the completion of my assignment for this week. Utum Swamin Wahanse. Theruvan Saranai, Utum Swamin Wahanse. End of report 2.
That's from the same person, is it? Both the reports.
It has come as a separate report. It doesn't say it's the same person, but
Yeah, you have to connect the dots. It says
yes,
after the failure in the morning.
yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yes, that's fine. Same advice. Here also you can see the same type of complaints. Failure. So the failure was a success. That was our initial comment. Right? Then whatever the thoughts, whatever the things that you notice, those things become your practice. Right? So don't meditate, be mindful. Mindfulness, you can't get it wrong. We'll see what comes in the next week's report. If you use the mindfulness instead of meditation, I'm sure most of these things become part of your practice.
Thank you, Bhante. Report number 3. Theruvan Saranai Bhante. Like earlier, there is no urge to share experiences, even though the practice's effects are inspirational. When it hears I think it says, when I hear others share their experiences, why is there no urge to share? Fades away, as it has gone through those experiences like others. It's like no urge to break the silence and tell things in detail, as it knows that whatever arises, that fades away, including the thing that checks what's happening for a report also fades away. But it doesn't come to any conclusion either, as if such arises that also fades away. Theruvan Saranai Bhante, end of report 3.
Yes, so you have the confidence in the practice, no doubts are there. So there is no real, or otherwise we can say like this, sharing your experience is not a must when you reach that type of a level. No doubts are there. You are confident about your practice. right? So sharing experience, it's not mandatory. It's not a must, right? But you can hear that other people are sharing similar experiences. So simply being in a Dhamma group helps. Listening to the discussions helps, right? So that way you keep engaging with a group and you simply continue your practice, right? So it's progress, no doubts, you have confidence, it's progress. But what happens to most people is that they simply give up participating. And eventually they give up the meditation as well. And after going a whole big round, they come back to their starting position, the usual worldly mind. Right? So that you have to avoid. How to avoid that? Only being in a Kalyana Mitra group. Even one time, Venerable Ananda, he came to Buddha and said, Bhante, I see Kalyana Mitra as 50% of the path. That's what Venerable Ananda said. Then Buddha said, Ananda, you are wrong. It's not 50%, it's 100%. The whole path is Kalyana Mitra. Right? So you have to have that support. You have to have that foundation. Otherwise, what happens is that you are confident in your meditation. You gradually drop joining these sessions and you meditate on your own, and after a while you even drop the meditation, and after going around a whole round you come to the same starting position. I have seen that happening to someone. It was like, waiting for an accident to happen. You can't help it. You can't, influence them. They have their own karmic nature. They have their own stubbornness. So you can see it's like an accident that's about to happen. Right? So they start their meditation, lot of energy. They go through this whole round and they come to that same starting position where the worldly nature. Right? How to avoid this trap? The only way to avoid this trap is simply being among Kalyana Mitra, being among practitioners, right? Listening to these discussions, listening to other people's meditation reports, right? That way, if you can continue for few years, even few decades, then that's how you can develop the path, right? So you have reached a good level. You are confident in your practice. You have no doubts. That's good. But what happens is that if you simply give up on everything, then eventually you will go back to your original starting position. Remember the status where you started your meditation. Remember that mind. You will eventually return there. Right? So you become noble and you keep practicing. Gradually again you become worldly and end up there. Right? So avoid that trap. The only way is simply to continue with a group. Isolating yourself is not good. Right? So you might not be writing your own report, but listen to others' reports. You might not be participating in a discussion, but be there and listen to a discussion. That way you have to encourage yourself. That way you have to keep engaged to avoid this trap. This is a good level. It's progress. But that very progress becomes a hindrance to your practice. So you have to deal with it carefully.
Thank you, Bhante. That's the end of the reports. However, we do have a set of questions for Swami Mahansa. I think we have about 8 minutes. Can I read them out, Bhante?
Set of what?
A set of questions have been sent through. Shall I go through them one by one?
Okay, sure.
Questions for Swamin Wahanse. Number 1. Oba Wahanse gave me an assignment, that is to observe thoughts as a CCTV. I tried to do that. I noticed as I keep on observing, my mind began to proliferate and dragged my mind to various topics that drew my attention, such as jokes, music, impress others, show off my value to others, future successes imagined, past sorrows and victories. Actually, I was unable to do the assignment. I wanted to see an end, but it never ended. Maybe I'm not mindful enough. My mindfulness is not strong enough to do this experiment. I beg, apologize, forgiveness from Oba Wahanse. That's one statement. Number 2, Swamin Wahanse, I encounter songs going in my mind, mainly during morning time. They are irritating in my mind. This is a trouble. Please help me. And there's a last question, Bante. I study various YouTube educational videos based on the topics related to day-to-day life and philosophy, meditation, sermons, podcasts, English language. Do these help to create proliferation? Shall I avoid them and meditate only with a sermon and a discussion per a day as in Nissarana Vanaya? Theruvan Saranai Swamin Wahanse. End of the set of questions.
Yes, so thank you for sharing those set of questions, but we don't plan to give a set of answers, right? Instead, you can keep these questions open and simply experiment with them, right? My answers won't suit you. My answers won't solve your problems, right? So you have to figure out your own answers. That's the way. So in a way, they say that understanding the question is the way to get the answer, right? So you have a set of questions. That's a good start. Now keep those questions open and continue your experiment. And this is only after a couple of weeks or 1 week, no? See after a couple to 3 weeks what happens. After 4 weeks, what are the answers to these questions? After 5 weeks, 6 weeks, after a couple of months, after a couple of years. That way you have to keep the questions open and figure out your own answers. In a way, we are not trying to answer really. We are simply trying to understand the question. That's what we do. Imagine if we answer these questions and close them today. Next week, there will be a fresh set of questions. Right? That's how questions multiply. Right? So don't let them multiply. Instead, simply keep them open. When you are not solving them, they don't have a chance to multiply. Even somebody, probably a week ago, he came and said, Bante, I have so many problems now. Due to that, I can't pay attention to single problem. Right? So that's progress. Right? Imagine if you have a single problem from early morning, waking up till when you fall asleep at night, you think about that very problem. Right? Now, many problems now can't really pay attention to one. Right? That way of living is very nice. That way of living, if you find that proper rhythm, it will be less stressful. You have many questions. You can't pay attention to a single one. Otherwise, give a single problem to someone. They will keep thinking till they solve it. Right? So in a way, we like to have many questions, many problems. And we keep them open. We are not trying to solve them. Right? Instead, let them be. And most of the questions, they find their own answers. They say, this bugger is not answering me, so I'll figure out my own answer. Right? So that way, the questions will solve themselves. Instead of us solving them. The problems will solve themselves. Right? That's the way to live. Otherwise, you solve a problem today, tomorrow there will be a couple of problems. You solve them day after tomorrow, there will be like 4 problems. Right? So you have to be skillful in this. We are not trying to solve them. Keep the questions open. Let them multiply. And when they multiply, you can't really pay attention to a single question because there are so many questions. And that way we keep experimenting with this. And that's the whole idea of the practice. It's not the answer. It's not the solution that matters. What matters is simply to understand the question properly, right? Understand the real cause behind this question, right? That's the very idea.
Thank you, Bhante. I think, Sonali, we have a couple of minutes. Should we invite more questions? Yeah, yeah, one more question. We have time. If you would like to put your Zoom hand up, we will invite you to unmute yourself, please. I don't see any Zoom hands up at the moment. So that might be the conclusion of questions or comments for today.
Thank you, Anupama. Looks like there are no hands, so we will move on to conclude the session today. So thank you, Venerable Homagama Dhamma Kusala Thero. As your usual guidance is very helpful to all of us, and we look forward to the session with you. And also we can't forget the Chief Abbot of Nissarana Vanaya, Venerable Udayiriyakama Dhammajiva Mahathero, whose idea was to initiate this program. So may this merit help them both improve their own practice as well. And thank you to everyone who participated via Zoom today with us, and anyone who may be watching via YouTube, or anyone who may be listening later on from our link at the Nissarana Vanaya. Thank you to all the organizers who are working really hard behind the scene to get the program to you every week. And I now, thank you. I now will end the session. As usual, we will meet 1 p.m. at Sri Lankan time. We have all got used to the new timings now in the UK as well, so and Australia. So it's 1 p.m. in Sri Lankan time all the time. So I wish everyone a happy and mindful week ahead.